Okay, so how did South Korea go from this to this? All in the span of less than one generation. South Korea in the 60s was a country of illiterates. Today, they are known as the birthplace to K-dramas, spicy noodle challenges, and new jeans. None of it would have been possible without the help of Korea's Illuminati, the Chaebols. The Chaebols aren't a secret, far from it. They're known and treated as kings and gods. They've had the biggest hand in molding and shaping every facet of Korean society from childhood to death, transforming a poor, uneducated South who was worse off than North Korea, again, worse off than frickin' North Korea, into richer, education-hungry work slaves, controlling and manipulating. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? We'll talk about that more later. But first, who are the Chaebols? The Chaebols are a group of business conglomerates controlled by just a few dozen families. They are rich, best represented by the fact that their name literally translates into rich families. And don't think just because they're in Korea that Korea is all they control. No. They play a significant role globally. Because chances are you've heard of them. Because chances are you have something from them. Chances are you know them. The Samsung Group, the Hyundai Group, the LG Group, just to name the top 3. Okay, to give you a sense of how powerful they are, the Lee family of Samsung accounts for nearly 20% of Korea's GDP. The top 10 families account for nearly 60% of Korea's GDP. And all the Chaebols together, well, they account for 85% of Korea's GDP.
Wow.
Oh, did I mention that this small country here is the 13th largest economy in the world too? Yeah, they're rich, global, and hella powerful. But let's rewind to 1945 to their humble beginnings, shall we? The Japanese got nuked, surrendered the war, and left Korea too. After years of enslavement, the Koreans were finally free. But not so fast. A war breaks out between the Soviet-backed North Korea and the American-backed South Korea. We all know how that ends. It left the South in shambles, both mentally and economically. A new government replaced them, pushing for industrialization and exports, and they knew they needed the help of businesses. Here is when the families who acquired the assets of the Japanese would start their ascent to becoming the Chaebols. This cooperation was essential. The government provided the plans to jumpstart the economy, and the Chaebols, well, they executed that plan. The Chaebols got massive subsidies. They got huge tax breaks, access to ultra low-cost loans, and a government-guaranteed bailout if they were to fail. They didn't fail. They dominated the textiles industry in the 60s, the chemical industries in the 70s, but that wasn't where the money was at. No. Real growth occurred in the 90s when they started innovating the electronics industry and high technology fields. Their growth exploded. And in less than one generation, the world is now using Korean phones, driving Korean cars, and eating Korean food, all while listening to K-pop. They changed the game in Korea. Like I mentioned earlier, Seoul, it was filled with the uneducated. But in order to innovate and grow, the Chaebols, they needed accountants, they needed engineers, they needed educated workers. So together with the government, they pushed education onto the masses, brainwashing them into thinking that they needed school to be successful. Like all their plans, it worked. Education is the only thing that matters to Koreans. Their life goal, simply put, is study 16 hours a day, every day. Pass the CSATs, get a degree, work for Samsung. This is the goal, and education will get you there. Okay, just to show you how crazy they are for school, the country shuts down for 9 hours for the CSATs, which is a 9-hour test. They close Korean airspace so that planes can't fly around the testing centers, and they close roads so there's no traffic around. There are even stories where students wake up late and the cops will drive them to the sites. It's just that important. Families will spend a small fortune on education, and their kids better damn pass. South Korea is the most educated country on earth now, with about 69% having higher education. America isn't even in the top 10. So if you thought that studying 16 hours a day every day for the last 20 years was your ticket to success and that it would be smooth sailing from there, you would be wrong. There is an insane amount of competition for jobs right now. There is always somebody to replace you. So once the Chaebols got their educated workers, this guaranteed that they worked hard. But But that's not all, folks. To push things a little further, no, a lot further, they instilled cult-like mentality in their employees, driving in the idea that loyalty to the company is above all. It's above fun, it's above life, and it's above love. Your work is your identity, and this mindset has infected the whole country. It's not a typical 9 to 5 either, no. Once you clock out, you are expected to eat and drink with your coworkers until your boss allows you to leave. Your work is your family. There is no work-life balance here. Your performance isn't even based off your productivity, but rather how long you work, not how smart you work. So when this grim reality sets in, for many Koreans, they realize they just spent the last 20 years as a slave to school just to become a slave for work. It hurts, it's depressing, and it's not the dream that they were sold. And remember, this is the best case scenario. It's easy to see how much more depressing it is when one doesn't get into a top university or gets a job with a lesser business, which is seen by society as a failure. South Korea has the highest suicide rates in the modern world, but there is a spark of hope. People are starting to realize that this is a false dream, and they are forging their own path in life. Globally, the internet spread like wildfire, and in Korea, it was no different. It was an opportunity to succeed yourself. Mukbangs came from Korea. The best StarCraft players came from Korea. The best League of Legends player all come from Korea. This Chaebols plot for work ethic, it worked. Not just in the conventional work school sense, but it now permeates the Korean soul, following them to whatever passions they have, and the world has noticed. Samsung, LG, Hyundai. I won't talk about them too much because their global influence is obvious. Just the fact that these companies, like many other Chaebols, produce and own way more than just phones, electronics, and cars. They have a strong hand in finance, banking, chemicals, insurance, energy, and way more than that. Okay, so now have you noticed that there's been a massive influx of Korean food, Korean music, and Korean shows to the West? That's not a coincidence. It was all planned. This Korean wave to the West started with exporting Korean computer chips and semiconductors, then to Korean products, and now the final phase, Korean culture. The easiest way to win hearts and minds is through food. The Korean government set up the Korean Food Promotion Institute to promote their food globally. They promoted, they advertised, they ran contests, they funded culinary schools, and they even went so far as to fund offshore restaurant owners, opening up as many restaurants as they could around the world. This paved the way for the Lotte Group to expand, Korea's biggest retail, entertainment, tourism, and most importantly, food-based Chaebol. In North America, you can now walk into any major grocery store and you'll find this, and this. And no wonder too, they're all so good. So with stomachs full and hearts unlocked, it opens up the path to one of Korea's most well-known exports, K-pop and K-dramas. So the K-pop industry isn't owned by any singular Chaebol, but don't let that fool you, they definitely have a hand in it. Many K-pop stars come from or have connections to these affluent families, including BTS and Blackpink. K-pop is a billion-dollar industry, expected to reach more than 20 billion by 2031. BTS alone is worth 3.6 billion, but the members are also slaves to their corporate overlords. You see, even the richest member, J-Hope, is only worth 25 million, a paltry sum comparatively. Most K-pop stars are slaves to their contracts. They are slaves to the business, and in typical Korean fashion, they work extremely hard, all to please. The industry is dark. I won't get into specifics in this video because that would double the length. But I'll eventually make a video about it, so subscribe. And if you like the video so far, give it a like. But for now, all you need to know is that it's darker than Hollywood. We've all watched it, the award-winning cultural phenomena, Parasite and Squid Games. We are in a K-drama frenzy. Netflix is investing about $2.5 billion into South Korea as K-drama mania grows and grows and grows. It's the same story with Disney. They just produced the highest budgeted K-drama, Moving, at $45 million. And there's no signs in stopping. We are consuming Korean culture like never before. Seoul is the 14th most visited cities in the world. Tourism is booming. We are in a new era. Korea is in a new era, and it's all thanks to the Chaebols, who in one generation created all this wealth and changed society, not just in Korea, but globally as well. Despite the dark side of all this, South Korea has flourished. It just goes to show that even in the world of secret elite societies, there is always an Asian who can do it better. Here's a video about the kings of Dubai. Check it out. If you like my content, like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.